I get obsessed with things, and it's not like I'm happy being like an observer or admirer. Like I need to be in it and I need to be it.
Hi, I'm Richard Q, and you just heard the voice of my guest on this episode of the Electric Communion podcast, one Channan Hanif. Now take the time out to savour that name, roll it around the tongue a little, absorb each letter, because it's a name I predict you're going to be hearing much more of. I hope you enjoy this podcast and would love to hear feedback from you. Please like and follow at the Instagram handle electric_communion and give us a share to any like-minded mates. Don't forget also to check out past episodes at the links in the bio. You'll hear them on all major podcast platforms as well as my SoundCloud and YouTube channels. Okay, let's get the conversation started. Electric Communion, Conversations in Clubhouse. Channan Hanif, thanks for coming on the show and thanks for making the trek down to Brighton from London. The date of this recording, by the way, is the 3rd of February 2024. You've been to Brighton before, haven't you?
I have been a couple of times, yeah. I love it here. Good beach. Last time I was here was actually on the hottest day of the year, so it was a perfect time. And yeah, me and my partner made it down. Nice. Just spent the whole day just on the beach.
Pretty manic on those days, so busy.
Oh yeah, very, very busy. But I guess it adds to the festivity of it all. You feel part of something.
Yeah, absolutely. I love
but yeah, thank you for having me, Rick. No. It's a pleasure to be on, and thanks for all your hospitality. Picked me up from the train station and everything. It's all been very lovely so far, so thank you.
The least I could do. Now, I guess out of all of my guests so far, your name is probably one that most listeners will be unfamiliar with so far.
Yeah.
Hopefully, all that is about to change in 2024.
Yes, sir.
But before we dive into the kind of finer details, can you give the listeners a brief intro about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Channan Hanif. That's the name I was born with, and I've stuck with it as an artist name as well. I figured it was different enough, and I'm terrible at choosing names. I would have been switching every couple of years, so I just stuck with my name, Channan Hanif. I was born in London. I lived most of my life, 10 years it was in London, and then I moved to Karachi. I'm from Pakistan originally. So yeah, I'm Pakistani, British by citizenship. I've been living now again in London for the past 4 years. Discovered my passion for music, which it's like really one of, if not the most important things in my life. It's like soul food, it's something I need. And I discovered it kind of late in life, but now it's sort of my purpose, I guess you could say. It feels like something that even if nobody's listening, I have to do, it's my journal, my diary, my everything. And so that's me. I'm Channan. I'm a musician. If you don't know me now, you'll know me soon.
Definitely. I'm very confident about that. Yeah. Now, obviously, you live in London, and you said about moving to Karachi in Pakistan.
Right.
You've also lived in New York, so we'll get onto those later. An international
Mr. Worldwide. Mr. Worldwide.
Let's start with London. I mean,
sure.
How's life there in the capital for you these days? Do you fully embrace the hustle and the bustle of the city? Do you immerse yourself in the culture, or are you more of a stay-at-home person?
I am a stay-at-home and immerse myself in culture person, I guess. But the thing is, when I'm in London, it doesn't feel like I'm somewhere like, I'm in London. It just, again, having been born there and like the sort of first 10 years of my life in London, so it was always home. Even when I moved to Pakistan, like we would come back to visit every summer and stuff, because I still had very dear friends. My best friends were still all here, so it never felt like I was stepping into something, I suppose. But still, like, just, I guess, growing up around all of that culture and hustle bustle, it does kind of shape you in a way. And me personally, like you said, I lived in New York as well. And I always need that, I think. Like, I do need to check out and recharge and be on my own. But I need that, like, that electricity that a big city has. Karachi's like that too. Just, like, something about it. I mean, I almost get more anxious in places that are too peaceful or something, you know. I like the edge, the dirt, like that. I like that about it.
And what about the nightlife in London? Because we met in a club, didn't we, a few months ago?
Yes, in Hackney,
I can't remember the club boys.
It was like a club, insert any number or something like that. Studio number something.
Yeah, something like that. And we met there, didn't we? Because my friend and someone who you've become friendly with, Faide, obviously my first guest on the show.
Great musician, check his stuff out.
Yeah, he was supporting Nandu, Tal Fussman, and Yet Moa. So we
Avengers.
met there. Yeah,
real Avengers.
What do you? I mean, first of all, do you go out much clubbing in London?
I do, I would say. I mean, like, I probably not more than everyone. I'm sure there's someone somewhere who does. But yeah, man, because very quickly, I think, like, I realized that, you know, sort of, I guess the more Mayfair kind of clubbing that some people like, and, you know, it's like no real shade. It's just like everyone sort of likes what they like. But I realized that I liked music, you know, and just places where music was more the focus and just like the center of things. And so, yeah, I do go out much. It's never really for the purpose of just like a night out. It's become, I guess, as I'm kind of getting deeper and deeper into the industry, it becomes more educational, networking, you know, get to meet people like you, for example. Like, so it has, I guess, there's ulterior motives now.
There's a purpose.
There's a purpose. There's
research,
a purpose.
Homework.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, just besides that, like, there's, in London especially now, it's almost like it's a real first world problem, but every month, like, your favorite artist is in town, or one of your favorite artists, and so you really have to pick your battles at this point. So I mean, I'm not going out every weekend, of course, but I have to see certain people, you know. So it's like, that is, I guess, just my sort of how I indulge myself in that way, you know. It's still researchy though.
Sure. Yeah. It's so funny that you just said that about every week now, because when I think first started this podcast, you know, just over a year ago, it wasn't as much like that. I remember there was a night, I think in 2022, when Gus Emmett, he supported, it was Melodic Diggers, you know, Gus, and there was Era, Economist, and Ivory, and I was like, wow.
I was actually there that night. I was,
all these guys though, and you know, that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And now, like you say, I mean, I've got tickets to go watch Trick and Jimmy Jules.
Me too, I'll see you there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she'll be there too. Yeah.
Okay, James is coming as well. And then though, it's now been revealed that Dixon's playing the week after, and the week before is it Ivory and Tal Fussman. It's like there's too much choice.
Yeah, no. Apparently, Labyrinth has, in March, on one of the dates, they have like 3 or 4 different events happening at the same time.
Wow.
Like, yeah, no, I mean, it's nuts. And on that, I think you would probably, I mean, you've been in electronic music for like much longer than I have, and you've probably seen, like, it was always around and very important to like certain niches, but now it's like it's everywhere, right? And so I guess that's just, I was talking to a friend about this yesterday, how Lost Village as well, like, it's coming up this summer, right? And it looks great. The lineup's got like everything you need, but people who I suppose would never really do that before, like, everyone's kind of considering it now. And like, yeah, I mean, it's I think it's probably objectively a good thing. Like, if this is music we love, then it's a good thing for other people to like it, right? I mean, of course, it comes with a catch sometimes, but I think objectively it is a good thing, right? Like, being spoiled for choice, can't really complain, you know? I mean, like, for example, in Pakistan, like, the idea of one of these guys, like, you know, just sort of Inner Visions Faithfuls or these kind of people, like, I think they did get... what was it? It wasn't Kolsch, maybe it was Hosh, you know, like one of the sort of fedora wearing kind of melodic techno guys. But so yeah, things are happening there. But basically, yeah, like yeah, it's crazy. It's blown up. It's exploded. Yeah.
Being spoiled for choice, and I mean, I guess that's all credit to the scene that, you know, we love. I mean, again, when people ask me, what is that scene? I always find it really difficult to actually explain. I mean, yes, often it comes under melodic house. If you look at, you know, the artists and what they come under in beat pop. Yeah. But I always just say kind of like Berlin inspired house, you know, obviously led by Inner Visions, really.
Yeah, it's that man Dixon. But it all becomes somehow, even though, which is crazy, there's testament to him, I suppose, like without even being a kind of like real producer himself, all music kind of like in this genre feels like Dixon adjacent or spawned by, which is, I don't know, I mean, of course there's so many people that play, but yeah, it's interesting what you said about the genre thing, because like everything from like sort of the more kind of indie like Jennifer Gardini stuff to like Trick is all like melodic house and techno. It's very strange, and it makes me think sometimes, like, of course at a certain point you do become jaded, because like now this kind of style of Berlin house and techno, like it's, you hear so much of it that I feel like one forgets how experimental it is actually as a genre, you know? I mean, especially nowadays, I guess, just because things are more saturated, it takes a bit more for one to stand out. So music is getting like wackier and wackier, you know? Like I'll catch myself, I'm like, and Reg as well, someone you've had on here, like he helped me kind of realize that, because you almost want your music to be a bit off-putting at this point, you know? Just have something, he says this a lot, just have something that kind of make someone turn their head and be like, what was that?
Stands out.
Yeah, stands out. And so yeah, that's just interesting. I mean, as a genre, it is really hard to pin down, and I think I love that about it, you know? It is, yeah, makes it very special.
Electric Communion, conversations in What do you think about, you know, the current club scene in London and in general? Do you think there's a lot of positive things happening at the moment, and do you have any dislikes?
So now the thing is that oftentimes, like, I went to Printworks once, for example, before it closed, or twice actually, and that was a good time. I've personally always just preferred like a tiny club and like have one artist play the whole time. So I don't like having like, you know, 4 or 5 artists on the lineup with 1.5 hour sets. Like I get it, and it's from business and everything, and even like the artists involved. I mean, you'd rather that than like not getting to play, which is a situation. But yeah, I mean, places I do like are often, it's based on who's playing there and like what's the night is curated. I wouldn't say, like, I'd heard great things about Fold, and I went there once to see DVS1. It's a bit of a messy, have you seen DVS1?
No.
DJ before? You're familiar though. He's like one of these American guys, but he's very revered, sort of Panorama resident and stuff, actually Berghain resident, but he is just like, I don't know, man, he's just kind of DJing with 4 tracks, and it's all like a bit messy, but I didn't feel like, oh wow, Fold is the place or anything, you know? I guess like I'm not really one of those people that, you know, finds a club that I just love, or I haven't yet. In Berlin when I went, I did really like some of the clubs there.
Where'd you go?
I went to Kit Kat Club, so I didn't try to go to Berghain that time, just because there wasn't someone like that I really like loved like that on, and I was like, let's save this embarrassment.
It seems like a lot of pressure, doesn't it, on you? Am I going to get in?
Exactly,
am I not?
Exactly. So I was like, when it's really worth it, I'll save that mental exercise for that. Like, you know, it's such a thing, right? Which is also hilarious. I mean, it's, you know, on Facebook, the worst techno memes group, like, it's class. Like, everything just about, like, Sven Marquardt, you know, they just, like, memeing him all the time. But yeah, anyway, Kit Kat Club, I liked, and that kind of comes down to a problem with, I guess, clubbing here as well, man. Like, it's becoming a lot less about music, of course. Like, people are trying to sell things, and I get that as well, you got to. But as a result, you know, just, like, things I like over there at Kit Kat, for example, your phone is gone, and yeah, like it is like a queer club and stuff, but besides that, it's less about that and more about just the concept of like, leave that at the door, let's come and do this, you know. And so I think that in that regard, I do think that some venues in London and nights could benefit just every now and then from having a night where it's like, let's like leave the phones at home, you know.
A few clubs do, don't they?
Yeah.
Fabric
Well,
they make you put a sticker on, which is quite a good deterrent.
I do respect that, and that's the thing. Like Fabric, Fabric I've grown to love more, I think. Room 2 particularly, Fabric is a funny thing where whenever you go, you are always in line with like American overseas students. I'm not sure if you've experienced this, but like it's like one of those things, like almost like you read on Google, like, you know, where to go on Fabric. And because of that, I think, and also, I mean, they're having so many nights, like you're not gonna like everything on there all the time, of course, but
I mean, it's kind of like the London Super Club now, isn't it?
That's true. And the thing is, so my partner, she lives right like a 2-minute walk from Fabrik, so that's like worked out great for us in the past like year or so. And I think as a result of that, like it's also just seemed like less of a trek and everything. I've been able to have a bit more of like a casual perspective on it, and I really love like Room 2. Like I've seen like great DJ sets in Room 2. Room 1, I think it's just a bit confusing in there. Like it also adds to the vibe, I suppose. But yeah, man, like I'll say this, Coco, it's like in Camden, yeah.
I went watching Dixon last year. You were there.
I was there.
Because you created the Dixon playlist.
I did. I'm guilty, yes.
And I was looking at it avidly, and then I realised it was you, and I was like, oh, you did create that, thank you.
Yeah, while trying to maintain my mystery, I'm slowly stopping to post on Innervision's lovers and stuff, you know, just try to seem a bit more stoic in that way. But yeah, no, I made that, man. That was so that was the day after my birthday, basically. And
were you taking notes throughout the night?
No.
How did you remember?
I some of those might have been frivolous, just kind of guesswork, to be honest. No, I think it was a lot of people contributed, man. Like, yeah, on the group. I do feel like that night at Coco with Dixon was a special one, and a lot of people were quite moved by it, and people were invested. Like, they really want, because he started the night, and I remember I always have this, like, again, this is the researchy, nerdy side of what, like, I am, because I'm a huge music nerd, right? Like, at the core, that's really my thing. And so I'm like, always, when it's these kind of people, like artists I really respect and love, I'm like, I need to see the first song, you know? I just want to be there and, like, get a whole perspective. And that first hour, like, Dixon was playing very interesting music. So, but yeah, no, that Coco, the sound there is just, it's amazing. I don't know if you've felt this, but like for me, it's just wherever you are in the club. Maybe it's because it used to be like a theater or whatever, but wherever you are in the club, like you can be kind of sitting right at the back, and even their tiny monitors on the roof. Like I guess it's because they have a big budget and stuff, so it's probably just really good. But like, yeah, the sound is just amazing.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great venue. Yeah. Like you say, maybe it's that kind of theatrical element as well. I had been there many years ago for some kind of more like a student night. Very different vibe. But I heard a few people, and I can't recall what they said, saying some quite negative things about it. But no, for me, it was a great night. I really liked it.
No, man, there is that. The thing is, it is like, it's a bit more like sort of upper class, and like they do have like an air of kind of elite sort of thing going on there, and they've just opened like this back room. But you know, like I feel like at least I have the freedom to kind of pick and choose what I engage with out of that and what I don't, you know. Like I'm still there with like my normal friends, and we're not like, you know, VIPs or anything. We're kind of just there because there's a great DJ playing, the sound is great. And so with a lot of the complaints like that one could have about clubbing and the music scene, I do feel like at the end of the day, it's kind of just like, you know, it is what it is. Like it's always been problems.
It's just evolving as well, isn't it? Man, you know, when people complain, I mean, you just mentioned the VIP thing. Right. I mean, what's your take on that now?
Yeah. So again, like I think with age, I'm getting better at like being okay with it. But of course, you know, like you go, and obviously, like I think certain level of insecurity and jealousy can always play into it, you know, like, and if I'm given free VIP or stuff, I'm like, yeah, sure, let's do it, you know. I'll quickly lose my sort of grounded allegiances, you know. But yeah, like I don't love it, but again, there's places that you can go where you're not going to have any of that. So just, you know, go to those places, I think. Like it's, and as well, I mean, if you are a VIP listening to this, you know, there's like people in VIP who are lovely as well, you know. So it's just really, you kind of just got to look out for things that aren't for you, I suppose.
Cool. Yeah. Now, you mentioned already you have Pakistani heritage, and you moved to Karachi at the age of 10. That was in 2010, I think you told me.
Yeah.
What took you there? And I think, how long did you live there?
So I lived there until I was 18. So basically until I went to university. What took me there was, I was born in London and lived here. My parents had moved a couple of years before having me. They'd moved to London. And they're both kind of creatives as well. So my dad they both were always relatively flexible about, where they could like live and what they would do. My mom's an actor, and so she had been like trying to kind of, get things to kick off for a while in London. At that time, especially, I mean, now it's very different, but at that time, like for like a brown woman, it's like little to no work, It's like she did a couple of voiceover things, and even that, like her British accent wasn't perfect. So very, very limited job opportunities. Like she tried a bunch of different things. She had a cafe, like it was right in Sydenham, it was called Zucker. She had a cafe, like just kind of trying to make things happen. And I think at the end of it, they wanted to be closer to their families and stuff. I hated the idea at the time. I was like pretty British, like very, very British, and just kind of happy. And like it was horrible, honestly, at the time. Like looking back, I would have had it no different. But at the time, I was like, I'd obviously visited a lot, but I was so happy. I'd just like done my completed like year 5 or something, and year 6 is when things get like a bit realer, then you're going off to secondary school. So it was a bummer not getting to do all of that. But definitely, like when I moved immediately, there is a sense of like, oh, everyone looks like me, and you kind of automatically through that, even though when I went there at the time, it was tough being accepted there too, because again, like I was like sounding like a little kind of posh, and at that time, year 5 or whatever, it's not like sexy to have a British accent, so I kind of forced it out then. And yeah, I mean, it was tough, but I do think that's all the kind of moving around has been to my advantage in the end, because I found myself in different places, kind of having to talk to people, and just like it's made me better at making friends, so better for it.
Now, I've been brushing up on my Karachi facts, having never visited Pakistan. I will say that I have travelled extensively in India. I've been to India a few times, and obviously the culture and the history of the two countries will be forever intertwined
100%,
by the
100%.
fact that before India gained independence in 1947, they were based and partitioned. Subsequently, they were one of the same countries, weren't they? Very, very interesting actually in the history. When I was travelling in India the first time, I read a book that I don't know if you've come across. It's all about the lead up to the India getting independence, called Freedom at Midnight, which is a great book.
I've heard of it, I think, but
really
I don't
great
know
book.
it,
But anyway, I do like to kind of pepper my podcast with some geographical facts.
Absolutely.
Let's see if you know these things. So it's the largest city in Pakistani, apparently.
Yes.
And it was the former capital. Now it's Islamabad.
Yes.
And it's the 12th largest in the world. Did you know that?
I did not know that. I would have put it higher, but well, there we go. Humbled. But on the capital thing, interesting fact for you is like they actually built Islamabad as a city to become the capital, basically, as just like a place that was sort of relatively barren, and like the government can go there. And so now if you go, Islamabad feels completely different too. It's a very like, diplomat city, and it's all super clean. The roads, everything's like brand new, basically. And that, again, I'm not the most historical myself, but I think that was around like 1970s. But Karachi's like the London, the New York, I mean, people in Lahore might debate that a bit, but
a native of Karachi is called,
Karachiite.
Karachiite. Yep, well done. It's the city that's the financial and commercial centre of Pakistan. It's by the sea. It lies on the coast of the Arabian Sea, west of the Indus River Delta, and you
must come, Rick. You must come at some point. And I'll you're welcome to stay with me and stuff. But at some point, if you haven't made the trip to Pakistan ever, you must. The thing is, I will, India and Pakistan really, and I'm not too nationalistic in that way about Pakistan generally. It's unfortunate, I think, the way things have panned out, and I don't think anyone's really better off for it. I mean, some people are, but just as a whole, Pakistan's not doing well, and it is India, it literally is. And perhaps arguably without sort of British colonialism and stuff, there would have been no reason for the extreme division, and you know how the story goes with that kind of thing. But you must come.
I'd love to. I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, one that I enjoy. It's called My Place or Yours, and basically the premise is that somebody comes on the show and they try to convince the host, who's he used to be a Radio 6 presenter called Sean Keevy, who I really love. They try to convince him to go there, and they tell him lots of facts about the food and the culture and stuff. And but it was Lahore. And it was talking about the rivalry between Karachi and Lahore.
Yeah, we have the beach. That's yeah. Put that on the t-shirt, you know.
Yeah. Well, so what was life like then, growing up in Karachi? Obviously, because those were your teenage years, years of kind of exploration.
Yeah. So now this is like a strong asterisk where my experience and a lot of the Pakistanis that one will meet in like just the West period, their experience is very different from the average Pakistani experience. You know, like we're very privileged to kind of be able to make it out. Like, I don't know, it's 250 million people or something in Pakistan, and like very few people can afford to like leave the country like that. So just to say that the experience I have is a very privileged and 1% one relative to the rest of the country. And it does feel like that. You do feel it, you know. There are still I mean, it seems a little bit similar to have you seen the movie Parasite? Just the, I guess, socio-economic dynamics and stuff, it's not too dissimilar. I think like South Korea is obviously doing a lot better, but so you feel it, and there is like, it's not a caste system, but it's an implicit sort of, there are social stratas, and they don't, like you don't really engage, so you're in your kind of comfy bubble. So I was in my comfy bubble, and like most people, if you can afford it, like it's maybe you're paying like the equivalent of like £200 a year, you will go to a private school, because the government funded schools just don't have a lot of funding, and so that's like not an option. If you have even like a little bit of money, you're spending your money on a private school, and because of that, private schools aren't the same as like a British private school, of course. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of freedom, there's a lot of, it's a bit like kind of anarchic as well, because again, just sort of, it's a poor country, so corruption flies better, so you kind of live a bit lawlessly, a bit reckless at times. But
and it's funny you actually mentioned that, because just this week in the news, can't remember his name, the ex-cricketer he's just been
he's in prison
for all sorts of dodgy dealings and corruption, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. So I don't read the news as much as I should, but of course, like everyone will know about that. It is just funny that I don't know, they are giving him a particularly hard hand. If I was him, I wouldn't sit a second in jail, I'd be like, how can you keep me here? Like, I'd be gone. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. He used to hang, he was a big playboy back in the day. He used to hang around Princess Diana and stuff, yeah.
I bet he was, yeah. I think I read that somewhere.
Yeah, so just on that, like, our things, the parties we go to, of course, is not a club culture necessarily there. Things are happening now musically. Like, there's always been a music scene, just in this 1%. Like you said, it's the finance, business, sort of that kind of sector. So most people are coming from sort of business families. The people, like your average Joe, doesn't care too much about arts and stuff. I mean, like the real average person, of course, you're kind of worried about like where your food's coming from. And then like even people in private schools, you're more concerned about business. You're being pushed there from a pretty young age. And so as a result, like, yeah, it's especially in younger years, I think everyone kind of gets to a certain age and realizes they have to discover themselves or look inwards a bit, and people do end up finding their creativity in some way or the other. But in London, I remember, even like at a young age, you're kind of pushed into all these spaces of like the train your creative brain and like just your imagination a lot, and that's less emphasized, like, I suppose. So that was like something, I think that's why kind of I feel like, I don't know, who knows, like there's no control test here, but like I feel like I might have realized that I love arts and music like a lot younger, because despite the fact that my parents were artists, I still thought like I'm gonna be like I thought I was gonna do law, for example, but like just literally like 18 years old, I'm like, oh my god, like I need to make art and music, so yeah, it's a bit staggered, I guess, in that way,
which moves me nicely onto the fact that, and I spoke to you about this already, but when I was doing my kind of research about you, I kind of stumbled across this really interesting conversation you had on YouTube in 2021 with someone called Adriatique, which was titled Realising One's Creativity. And you talked about growing up and the issues young people in Pakistan and across the world are facing in trying to pursue their creative interests. How did you get involved in that project?
Yeah, so it'll be a slightly somber turn, but that's all right. So Atika Malik is he was my best friend. He passed now basically. But it was shortly after his passing, and R.I.P. Arsu. And she wanted to do this thing because she had signed up. She's very much into sort of just bringing up the youth and sort of getting them into creative pursuits. And so she had already booked this thing like before he passed, and she was like, I think that like now more than ever, and I mean she's like so strong just because that was literally like a couple of days even after after he passed. And I think like she's just a very, very strong woman, but I think it was a little bit cathartic as well, just to like, kind of talk about it. And in that, you mentioned the name of it, but in that there's a short poem that he wrote as well, kind of read by it. So it was a nice homage. But yeah, that's how it came about. She works with this thing called like the Biennale, which is this arts festival thing that happens every so often in Karachi and other places, I think. And so yeah, just celebration of that. And I think I mentioned it there, but I don't think it's so exclusive to Pakistan, like that problem. I think it's like very universal actually, of just like, maybe feeling like you're a bit different, feeling like you want to create something, not really knowing how to start. That's a very universal experience. It's just like certain quirks of Pakistan, I think, that can make it, maybe it's not more difficult, but different, in that way. I mean, there's a lot, that's the thing. I don't want to, like, I'm by no means Pakistan's finest, like, creative export. They're good musicians, artists, poets, actors, actresses, like, everything. So that's just my experience, I suppose,
Electric Communion, Conversations in Going back to like dance culture, the dance music industry in Pakistan. I read an article that talked about, I think it was 1977, there's some kind of strict draconian laws put in place that really stifled the rise of the clubbing scene.
You've really done your research,
and there's a word associated with it, is it fashashi, which basically translates as dirt or smut, and that was linked to kind of this perception of drinking and drugs are linked to that kind of industry.
Absolutely.
But interestingly, before in the 1960s, the city had been recognised for like its vibrant nightlife and was dubbed the City of Lights for being this popular destination on the hippie trail. And funny enough, you when you texted me the other day about Karachi, you said the city of lights and vices.
Yeah, lights and vices.
So when you were there, and I mean, I guess you were only
ripe teenager.
Yeah. So you were still maybe a little bit young to really, even if there was a kind of dance music culture, to kind of immerse yourself. But was there much going on?
No, there is. So that's the thing as well. Like I'm very wary of the fact that, again, like I said, so I'm in a bubble. There are bubbles within that bubble. You know how it goes. But there always has been, and I used to hear about it more, and it always sounded so scary because it was just like, it's all private, people who love the music or they love the drugs or whatever it is, they'll go out of their way, and because they have the space and maybe like a location, they'll do like something private, and again, because there's no clubs really, everyone comes, and everyone of course has some sort of like primal kind of like they want to get feral or something, and so yeah, I mean even now I don't think this has changed too much now, I suppose, because house is more at the forefront, and so every like little party has a potential to get a bit ravey now if like a DJ decides to play a little bit darker Afro house maybe or something. But yeah, it's always been there, it's just been private. There are now a few institutions that kind of exist probably in a bit of like a government loophole or just paid off the right person, and so you have like more public events then, but again they're super high level security and stuff, so it is happening. It's definitely happening, like, and especially in the last 5 years. I'm not sure if you've heard of Coke Studio. Have you heard of that?
Maybe rings a bell.
Yeah, so I'm wondering when they're going to get a bit more electronic with this stuff, but they have been like a huge export of Pakistan, where they just kind of collect like different musicians and sort of make them sometimes cover classic songs, sometimes perform original music, and the production quality and everything is just great. And this year was the first time they started having the production was a bit musically, the production was a bit more modern, and because house is picking up now, you never know. I feel like it is going. Generally, I mean, maybe it's already like peaked and is about to fall off, but it does seem like things are happening there now. It's just difficult when you don't have clubs. You know?
Sure. Well, you mentioned things are happening because actually in the article that I just referred to, it said that I think in 2021 or 2022, the first boiler room event happened in that country with a DJ called. It was actually in Karachi. It was called DJ Lila.
Yeah. She's really cool. So she's played in there's one club in Glasgow, I think it is. You know the one I'm talking about. I do know
the one. Is it the one that with Harry as the resident?
I think so. Subclub. Yeah, so she's played there. She's played there. I've seen a video of her. She was like dropping like floor plan. Oh yeah. So I don't know her personally. Like I've seen her around and stuff. But yeah, I mean she's killing it. So that's the thing. So she played. I mean even London bred Aha the Dream, who is back to back with Dixon in March, right? So he's from Karachi as well.
Right.
He's kind of similar to me in the sense that I think he's spent his life a bit back and forth, but he's very big in the London scene. Has done a lot for like bringing up South Asian kind of electronic music in London. So yeah, definitely like he's one to watch for sure, and he's got Dixon's co-sign. So yeah, he played in Karachi as well.
Right.
So that's the thing, and that was happening at the same place that I was thinking of, where there's a couple of these places that exist. So the boiler room happened there. You know, it was like private invite only. Maybe all boiler rooms are like that. I'm not sure, but yeah. So things are happening. You know, put it shortly. Yeah.
And is it in Karachi when you first got into electronic music or electronic music making?
So in Karachi, I first got into music, period. I would say, like I said, like I feel like I was late to discovering that I even like really like music. Like, of course, I'd like to like sing along to certain songs. When I was still in London, like it was literally like I remember Eminem was like something that I was like into. I used to like just again to listen to profanity and be like, oh, like he didn't, whatever. But yeah, then I started to listen to people really like in Pakistan. People really like Nicholas Jar, you know. Yeah, so that was something that like would get passed down from like the older people who again maybe are like, you know, a little bit trippy, hippier, you know.
It's a bit more ambient.
It is.
Nicholas
it's a bit
Jar,
more down tempo, a bit more David August adjacent, I suppose. But yeah, so he was a legend, name that got thrown around a lot, and one of my like very close friends showed me some of his music. He was a bit earlier to me. Like he was like, okay, check this out. I never disliked any of it, but I guess I never felt like, oh, this is it. Even that, like more EDM stuff, I was like into it, you know, like proper Alesso, Hardwell, kind of Swedish House Mafia, into all of it. But I didn't start liking music like a lot until maybe I was like 17 or 18. And then I was like kind of always listening to it. And at that time, I had kind of started liking more like pop rap sort of stuff. And like Kendrick Lamar, Kid Cudi, like Drake, Future. Like I remember actually Future and like those kind of sort of dirty Atlanta trap beats was the first time I felt like just that feeling in your stomach where you're like really moved by like a bass. And like I was like, oh, like there's something here, you know. It felt a bit larger than life, I suppose. So from that moment, I was at least hooked as a fan of music, electronic music, whatever. And even through the times before I realized that I wanted to be a musician, I was still going to... My first concert ever was Flume, actually, in London at Ali Pali, Alexandra Palace, right? And so that's the thing. I was very easygoing in the sense that I liked all of it. I didn't dislike any of it. And that was probably my first real experience with electronic music. But what pushed me to like house and techno was in New York, yeah, actually. And that was Solomon, which is like such a basic answer, but it was really something. And it's funny, during COVID time, he like he wrote this long thing about why he isn't doing like a live stream set, and there was something that really stuck with me because it explained my condition almost. But he said something about having like X number of people kind of like locked under like that one groove, because I felt that night in Solomon. It was like this New York bunker, very print worksy, but it was just, there was something like very primal and tribal about the whole thing, and it felt like ritualistic almost, and I really liked that. Like he was almost like, it felt like he was a bit of a priest, and like these are people who have come here to express something, or like, you know, find some sort of meaning or something. And it's like, since that moment I was making music already, and I was rapping and doing all kinds of things, but that night I was like, I want to produce techno, because that feeling of the four on the floor in the club, like it was life-changing. It was definitely life-changing.
It's funny how you make the link to like a religious experience. That's kind of where the name Electric Communion comes from, really. Talking about, and I'm kind of digressing, but I saw something funny the other day on Instagram. Solomon, he can be a bit grumpy, can't he, on the decks? There was somebody with the form, which he must get all the time, so I'm not quite sure why he targeted this particular person, and I don't know if you've seen this.
I have seen
but he got really grumpy, didn't he? And he was like, he was gesturing, why are you on the phone?
He's telling them
you
to
should
dance.
be dancing, which is a fair point.
That's the thing, probably just like a bad day for him at the office, man. But again, to be honest, he's a monster. Like, I don't know how he does it week in and week out. But yeah, the phones thing, it is annoying, man. It is annoying. But again, like I said, it's just someone else trying to have a good time, you know. And so if they're not like really in your way, I think you just have to like live and let live.
Yeah. No, I read, or maybe it was in that video that we talked about on YouTube, that you said you were first introduced to music making, making software by a roommate at uni. So that was in New York, was it?
So I did my freshman year of university at NYU in London. Just couldn't get away. And yeah, over there.
What were you studying?
Political science. Yeah, what did you study? You went to Liverpool, you said. What did you study?
I studied urban planning, town planning, and then never did anything with it.
Yeah, fair enough. No, yeah, I mean, I didn't, again, like at that time I was still thinking that I'm going to go to law school eventually. It was literally just because I kind of like to chat shit and like argue, and I liked the glitz and glamour of television lawyers, you know, like slick back the hair, briefcase, suit, like that was literally it. And it was just seemed like a lesser evil. Like I knew I didn't want to be a doctor or like, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, so his name's Sam, and we're still friends to this day. But yeah, I met him, and again, this is like probably the just onset and peak of me like loving music. I loved music, you know. I was like so fascinated by it. I'd watch like music videos and stuff like all day, like. And with me, I have a thing, if I get obsessed, even if I watch I'll get to that later, but I get obsessed with things, and it's not like I'm happy being like an observer or admirer. Like I need to be in it, and I need to be it, you know. It's a weird, like, I don't know what it is, but yeah, so I would obsess over, like, idolize these people, and I was like, man, like. And then when he showed me Logic Pro, which is what I use, that's a DAW I use, and still to this day, but he showed me it, and he showed me just some very basic trap beat that he'd made, and it was like, wow, you can just do this, like, show me how to do it, let me get onto this. And yeah, man, since then, like, barring a few days here and there, that was in 2016, right? So now we're in 2024. I mean, yeah, it's like almost 8 years, pretty much in some way I've been making music like every day. Yeah, I get grumpy and agitated if I don't for too long, you know? Like I need to. So yeah, that's when it started, and thank God for him, because yeah, it was I'm sure I would have found it eventually, but it was a nice, like, as soon as I got there, you know? It obviously made it difficult then, like, because as soon as I got there, I was like, I don't want to do this degree anymore. And I did end up finishing, you know? I was going to switch like something music related, but it just felt like studying a degree in music isn't going to give me what I want from it. So I'm like, let me get the employable option as a backup, you know. And yeah, I haven't used it yet, but let's see.
And you basically self-taught yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I definitely get that. I think I'm like that generally, and because I see people, like, especially I guess since it's become bigger, wanting to get into it now and kind of just wondering how to. for me, that's what it was like. And because I'd already been watching so many YouTube tutorials about how to make other genres of music, the DAW skill at least was there. It was just more, any like producers listening, which I'm sure like a good percentage of the people listening would be producers, maybe beginner, advanced, whatever. But for me, and I think most successful producers I've heard, they listen to their favorite music and just break it down and reverse engineer that and just keep doing that, because it demystifies everything. Like, I mean, and still to this day, there's music I hear, like, I've been listening to this Ricardo Villalobos album, and I'm like, how did he make that, you know? And it's still happening, but that's a way which through you learn, like, tools. They're just fundamentals. You can worry about, like, expressing yourself later. You really need to understand how you make a bass that sounds like, well, you need to, like, understand the physics of it before you can apply it in, like, an artful way. But yeah, self-taught, there's so much on YouTube. Use that to a point. Now, tutorial is, like, seldom helpful if I need a bit of inspiration. And I would also say, just, like, a lot of the time it doesn't sound like this in my music. Sometimes it does, but I think it's true for most artists. Some like to admit it, some don't, but you usually are trying to replicate a feeling that was given to you by some other piece of music, you know, and it goes through your own personal filter and comes out entirely different every time. So yeah, I would say just like, I mean, I'm not like the best teacher in that regard, but try to learn yourself if you can. And if like, I think I just love it enough where I'll get where I want, because I can't give up, because I just love it, you know. So even I'm still like novice. I'm nowhere near where I want to be. And like the artists that I think are like, you know, just everything, I just keep listening to that. And that's, I suppose, the bar for me. And so it's annoying sometimes. Like I like my music, but I'm like, but it's not like that person's music makes me feel. And that gap closes slowly, you know. But yeah.
Electric Communion, conversations in conflict. Now, you've not had any releases as yet.
Yeah, no.
But you've got some coming on very shortly, I think. We'll talk about those in a minute.
Yeah.
You've been making music for quite some time. Have you just been kind of playing the waiting game? Were you waiting for the perfect moment, or have you tried to get some of your music released in the past? It's just not happened.
So before I started doing electronic music, I was uploading stuff on SoundCloud, Spotify, just independently, like making the artworks like myself most of the time, you know, kind of, and that was sort of really like SoundCloud rap. And so I tried that, I did that. Then of course Solomon converted. Then I'm like, starting to understand the industry game and how a lot of the guys who are successful are in their, let's say, 30s, you know, at usually like, it's an anomaly to see someone like in their early 20s at like real success in this scene, you know, melodic house and techno or whatever. So, and that there's good reason for that, I do think, which is really just in other genres, I feel like, sort of a young, just exciting artist that can be very crude and raw and just say like what they want to say, just the attitude and stuff can carry. But in like this market, which has almost always been a bit faceless until now, I think, you know, like it's almost like better for your brand to like be hidden and mysterious and let the music talk. And in that way, you can't really rely on being like a young, exciting, sexy thing. It's got to be just you're a nerd and you've been making music for 10 years or something. So yeah, I forgot the question. It was, did I try? So then I was waiting basically, and like my friends and people around me will tell you this. And even now I think like, was there really need to put something out yet, you know? And I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere down the line in a couple of years, I wipe and just start over. But, I always thought that I would be ready, but like when people were telling me, man, you should just put this out. And I'm like, but no, it's not as good as that Trick record. Like it's just, it's objectively.
But that's the danger, isn't it? You should never kind of compare yourself to other artists. And that's also the danger, I guess, of Instagram, etc., because you're always seeing someone else seemingly do it better.
Yeah, it's horrible. It is. And I think that like, I do think everyone goes through that, like at all levels, even like the most successful, like most followers person, probably, maybe even more, you know. But again, it is one of those things where it's like it brings us a lot too. It's like the trade-off, I guess, that it does come with. These things are very like cyclical for me personally. I think most people, like, one day I'll feel like I'm like, I'm the shit, like nobody has anything on me and it's just a matter of time, right? And then other days you do end up thinking like, oh, this is really never gonna happen, and why am I, and look how much fun they're having and they're playing these shows. And yeah, man, I guess it's like, you follow your own path, and that's at least the comforting thought.
Well, one of the reasons I think, this is going to be a year, and this is the time, hopefully, that things are going to flourish for you is, and it's the way I found out about you, is because you've obviously, maybe this is part of your plan, your long-term plan, but you've got in touch with some DJs and producers, known DJs and producers, as far as I know, on the London scene. For example, former guests, Reg, Faide, and I know the London DJ Patton as well, who I'm a bit familiar with. I know him. Those are some examples I know, but I also saw that there's quite some big names on the scene who are following you on Instagram. Hardt Antoine, Sahar, Red Freya, Samantha Loveridge, the list goes on. So that's quite an impressive following for someone who has yet had no releases. So how has that interest in you come about, and has that exposure helped you in terms of getting your music released?
Yeah, I pay them £5 a month to follow me. No, man, yeah, all of the people you named, I love them a lot, and it has come through organic, just meeting. Apart from DJ Olay, so this is, again, maybe this advice is useful to someone, but when I moved back to London, like in the past couple of years, and again, I'd been producing techno stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is perfect, because now I can be around clubs and like just be closer to the scene. And Reg, I'm trying to remember I think it was like one of the Some Over History's compilations or something that I just...
Ghost in
the Shell, yeah. Amazing track. And amazing label. Love Frankie and Sandrino. Yeah. So yeah, obviously seeing him there, then I just, again, like I told you, I'm a bit obsessive, right? And I just want to know more. And so I looked him up and saw that he's in London. And this applies to, I think, any industry, but his career has definitely taken off a lot since that time.
Since my podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on that though, Mira's doing the business. I think you're like in the king-making industry.
I got my finger on the pulse. I like to think so.
No,
I think it's just been a coincidence. But
you do, and also just by the way, I think like this is really like just cool, like what you're doing. Because again, like I think that there are a lot of people. Anyone who's deep enough ends up becoming a nerd of sorts, and you do like to hear about people's experiences in depth. And so I really think this is like a really important thing, and I like listen to all of them, just kind of on commutes and stuff. Like it's like listening to a podcast when there's not that many about underground music and stuff, I mean, it's maybe one of the things that keeps it so like sexy and mysterious or something. But like, yeah, I just wanted to say that this is a really cool thing that you do.
Thank you, kind words. You were talking about Reg.
Yeah, so basically I saw him and I looked him up and I was like, oh, he lives in London and he seems like he's at the right level of clout where he's not too big, where I think I could get a reply or something. And prefaces all by saying you do have to feel like your music is ready, and at this point I still, it's still no trick, but I felt like it was good enough to share. I felt confident in it. So I sent him some music. Luckily enough, Ethan, Reg, he's just like the loveliest guy as well, Yeah, totally. He's just like the loveliest guy. So he gave me the time of day. He was very excited by my music. And so that was the first time actually anybody in the industry somewhat, like thought that I had something. And yeah, since then, man, the ball's been rolling. And these guys, like Antoine, Sahar plays some of my music sometimes. I'm not sure if Antoine has yet, but he's got an eye on me, yeah, they're all like really talented, so it's amazing to just be under their microscope,
So that kind of snowball from Reg.
It did, yes, exactly, because that's the thing, he's the type of guy, again, and don't want to just like sort of gas him up too much, but he's such an amazing guy where he wants you to do well, and he'll go the extra mile to like, in fact, I do want to gas him up that much, but yeah, he just goes the extra mile, and you know, we are friends now, and that's like something that, you know, you rarely become like really new friends with people like after a certain point in life, you know. And so yeah, he's a special guy, and his I'll never forget, really, like he did get the ball rolling for me. Nice. You know, and gave me confidence as well. So
well, I kind of preempted that you would say that about Reg, so I reached out to him to see what he had to say about you.
Wow, this is a fun segment.
Let's hear it from Reg.
Hey guys, it's Reg here. So I'm going to chat a bit about Channan and how we met and so on. So yeah, Channan just reached out to me one day over Instagram, sending some demos, some of his music. And yeah, I heard it straight away, and I thought it was really, really amazing music. Some of the best demos I'd been sent in a long time. And he instantly caught my eye, and I just kept on top of him. I asked for more music and more music and more music, and yeah, I've been basically playing his tracks ever since. He's making great music. I really love the grooves, the elements, the snappy and short. They're interesting, curious, you know. Yeah, not too overcomplicated. They're just fun tracks to play, which is really, really lovely, and kind of, I guess, what you want as a DJ. So yeah, I think this year is going to be a good year for Channan. I think it might be possibly his breakout year. I know he's got a lot of music in the pipeline, and yeah, hopefully a lot of releases this year also. But I think it's going to be a good year for him, where he starts to get a bit of recognition and support from big and small DJs and friends alike. So yeah, best of luck to Channan, and looking forward to the amazing year you're going to have, my friend.
High praise from Reg there. Channan, how does it make you feel listening to Reg talk about your music in such high regard?
Oh, it's surreal, to be honest. I mean, it's a constant, it's not imposter syndrome, but I guess it's everything that you sort of hope for and kind of fantasize that will happen, starting to happen. So I guess it's tough to even process sometimes. But Reg, thank you so much, hermano, and you're killing it, and I hope that we keep succeeding together, man. Those really kind words.
I had a separate conversation with him at some point, and he mentioned that he mentored you a bit. Is that fair to say?
100% fair to say. Still to this day, I mean, now he's already given me so much game that like I don't have to ask him too many things anymore. But at the beginning, it would literally be like, this person has messaged me this about my track, like, what do you think I should do? And he's actually, I don't know, maybe he spoke about this on the podcast, but he studied music management as well a bit. So he's got like a real good kind of brain for the game and stuff, and just how things can play in the long run. In fact, like, he's given me great advice about keeping things a bit slower as well, and that's something that I always felt, but one does get excited by the kind of, you know, slightest sort of glimmer of glitter, like, you know, you're like, okay, maybe I should just jump on this. And he's been very good at like helping me be like, don't worry, you don't need this like right now. These doors, there will be other doors that open, and it's probably better for your career, brand, etc. Just various bits of game. But 100%, he's still like that. He's still the first person I send music to for like feedback when I think it's good enough. I definitely hold his opinion in high regard, so I don't send him just like everything, you know. But yeah, he still gives me great feedback. In fact, like one of the ones, it's this track called Got This, and that's gonna come out on an EP with Anims in like just under 2 weeks now. I had the track, he loved it, but he said it just needs this one thing, and he almost, I mean, I ended up doing it, but he said, he described a feeling, and with one of the elements that was already there, he said, just try and do this with it. I did that, and the track was finished, and that's been getting played by, like, you know, Sahar, Patton loves it, Faide as well, James, he loves it. Like, so it was it's easy to kind of give someone feedback and be like, I like this and I don't like this, but actionable, real things about like, this is going to get this track finished. So yeah, he's just, I mean, I'm so blessed to have him in my life, and I hope that like he sticks around, you know. But yeah, definitely one of my mentors for sure.
And I think this is the perfect time to play some of that track.
Let's do it. Yeah, so basically this EP is coming out on Anims. It's a label run by some guys in Barcelona. They're really lovely. And yeah, they heard the music through Reg, actually. And so they're releasing 2 songs. They're 2 tracks for the club. Kind of just fun, easy going. And yeah, I think we're going to play one of them right now.
It's got some real kind of old school vibes to it, which I really like, and
Yeah.
seems to be this kind of resurgence in those kind of sirens. I mean, obviously
bring me a house stab.
You've got the Innovision's Quantum Split series,
Yeah.
with the likes of Scatman and
Yes.
Nandu doing those old school vibes.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm a sucker for a trend like anyone else. And I think it's an interesting thing because these are all things that are very fundamental to techno house. I'm talking like real Detroit, like this kind of house stab thing, you know, it's always been there. And with this resurgence, I've now started noticing that it never went away, really. I think right now is just kind of, you know, it's at the front. Again, these things are like cyclical. But yeah, I personally feel like if you're kind of making music for the club, you sort of have to at least keep an eye on what's trending. And for me, especially like a very kind of green producer and just trying to get my stuff played to get like a name out, I do think you can worry about your signature a bit later, like at least show people that you can make a track for the club. And so that was that. It was just knowing that these house like elements, those stabs, the chord stabs, they work, trying to incorporate them in a way that's different, because like you have to do that. I mean, otherwise it's just boring. But yeah, it's not to say that I don't like them. I've always loved that kind of music, and I still listen to a lot of old school Detroit, the kind of Robert Hood, etc., that stuff too. So it didn't feel like I was selling myself or anything. It just kind of, it's like this is what sells nowadays, so you kind of try to make something a bit in that lane. And Gimme Some is it's definitely just based on like this really just simple kind of house chord thing, and I tried to spice it up with something different in the middle, but I hope you guys like it.
So how do you go about creating your music? Do you have a certain way of approaching each track, and what's your setup like? Are you producing your music at home in your bedroom?
Absolutely, yes, in my bedroom. I'm either in bed or I'm at my desk, basically. So my setup, the thing is, I actually really suck at producing in a way. Like, I manage to, somehow it gets done, and most of the time it doesn't. But like I said, so I started producing really kind of, it wasn't FL Studio, but like producers will know, like in a way of just my laptop and just like trap beats straight, everything stock. And so I still carry that with me today, even though I have hardware. I use a Moog Sub 37, which is a very, very powerful synth, probably too powerful for my needs, but it was basically through, Stefan Bodzin and that time, like, so it was just like, that was the time where I first discovered melodic techno. I'm like, oh man, need this, I want to make that, just have that kind of sound. It's gotta have it, just gotta have it. And I mean, luckily enough, it's a very versatile synth, and so it's not just for sort of afterlife-y kind of thing. You can do a lot with it. But I got that, and it's great for bass. I do use that. I have like soft synths as well, but for bass, there's just nothing like a Moog. Like, people who have one will tell you this, like, you can have everything else be exactly the same, but there's something that's just fat and thick and juicy about the bass that comes out of a Moog.
It's very, again, I'm not a producer, but is it...
have you dabbled ever? No.
I've done a little bit with James Faide.
Yeah.
I just... where I am in my life, I just feel like I haven't got the time. But then it's a really interesting question, because I was like, I started the podcast afterwards, and actually this consumes a lot of my time. So maybe I could have put more focus into doing that, but no.
Fair enough.
Isn't a Moog famous for kind of very warm sounds?
Yeah, very, very warm sound. And that's the thing, is that, so a lot of the time I'm using it in a way that you can't even really hear it. It's like that deep in the sub frequencies, like just like really 60 hertz onwards. That's like where it just again, it's just something that you really feel in your stomach. And I have tried like different kinds of saturation on, and the thing is, this is not gospel. My word is definitely not like, you can do things without it. Just for me, I have it. And so that's the one thing I use it for without fail all the time, is the bass of a track. And then I have a drum machine, which is this Electron drum machine. It's an analog rhythm Mark II. And the thing is with that as well, it's a really, really powerful machine, and I use it sometimes to start grooves, but I always just end up with my laptop. Like, my most productive things, usually I'm like lying on my stomach on my bed with the laptop after like kind of giving up at the desk, and then come back, but I'm like, okay, let me just open this. So it's weird, like I'm most comfortable there. It's just there's certain things, and with making tracks stand out, it's nice to have the hardware, because you get a bit more of a tactile feel, and things end up sounding a bit more human and random with the analog stuff. So I think it's definitely, once you're at a point where you've kind of used everything you have at your disposal, it's nice to get any bit of hardware. I know Reg, for example, he gets like pretty much his whole discography up until now almost has been just this Korg Minilog, which is on the cheaper end of synth, but he gets so much out of it. So it is also about like knowing your equipment. But yeah, there is like analog over digital isn't all like hoo-ha. There is something there. It's just like not make or break. You can make amazing club music without it as well.
And that's exactly what my former guest Monica were talking about. We talked a little bit about all these people who had racks of hardware, and at the time of saying this, that episode isn't out, but Luke, one of the two, said something very funny. He's like, if I had all that hardware in front of me, I'd have a stroke.
100%. I mean, the thing is that electronic music, for the most part, is a privileged person's problem in a sense, right? And I always was so fascinated, because now, I mean, I guess learning a bit more about how much even the most successful DJ might make, I'm like, how would you afford like of $100,000 worth of equipment. You know, most people come from a certain place privileged. Like you can only worry about like bleep bloop blip, you know, I think when you have things like that sorted out. But yeah, you don't need anything fancy. That's what I use, but I always end up just on my laptop. And then to record my bass in right at the end, I'll just use the Moog usually. Yeah, I'm thinking of selling the Analog M2. I spoke to Antoine about this actually, Hardt Antoine, and because I saw him in the studio with it, and I was like, do you use that for your like kicks and stuff? Because the analog kicks on the drum machine are terrible. They just can't work in the club. So I asked him, I was just like, you know, because your kicks sound amazing. Like, yeah, and he said, no, I load up samples and I'm thinking of selling this thing too. It's like really good if you're trying to make generative or like very kind of experimental music that has a more random feel, but most of the time I'm trying to make like a club banger, and so I have my couple of kicks that I know just hit and they're on my laptop, and you know, so yeah, most of the time it's just the laptop really, and I'm trying to actually embrace that more, and maybe just because, sorry to interrupt, it's just like this element of, there was always a glamour. I wanted to be that guy, like between the two synths, like with my hands on the knobs, you know, like you see that
orbital style,
just literally like Vangelis, you know, like that kind of image, like, and yeah, and so it's hard to let go of that. But now I guess I'm more confident in the fact that the laptop can do it all, and so I'm trying to strip it back, and it's a lot of money on those things, and so yeah, let's see.
Now, I'm really interested in a project that you're involved in with the artist Works of Intent.
Yeah, shout out Works of Intent.
I've become a big fan of him.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar with him, listeners, check out his album Richer Sound,
yes,
which was released last year on Laurent Garnier's Cod-Free QR label.
Yeah.
Dixon has been playing some of his tracks, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
And yeah, Works of Intent, his real name, and I'm going to get this wrong, is Vasily Monchegladbach?
So Vasily is someone, he's a third party in this whole equation. Works and Vasily are not the same person, but
wow,
yes, Works has a different real name that I not my business to disclose. But yeah, he's Works of Intent, and a certain Vasily Monchengladbach, I believe, don't know where he's from, but he started a volunteer initiative called Emotional Weaponry.
Emotional weaponry.
Emotional weaponry. It can only be an emotional weaponry.
You have to listen to the mix to know what we're talking about, which I'll kind of talk about a little bit more later.
Yeah, but I was so the thing is that Works of Intent, leaving Vasily aside, because honestly, I don't want to give him the platform in the first place. Whatever he's doing, that's his business. But Works of Intent, he and his whole, this initiative, the music that's coming out on Emotional Weaponry, and it's very, I was surprised that you like were as into it as you were, I suppose. Just because I suppose I'm mostly engaged with you, or like in the Inner Visions context, I suppose.
But
you know?
That is what I found so refreshing, because I love the whole Inner Vision bangers, and I'm always playing them myself.
Of course.
But I find it really refreshing to hear something a little bit different in that age of Inner Vision bangers. Yeah,
and he, Works of Intent, I think just like his life philosophy generally is that, like, it's just, if something is being done too much, like, it's just, there's no point. Like, you'd rather do something that is a bit more honest, I suppose, you know, and it's not to say that stuff isn't honest, but again, it's just like the path less traveled, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, that's another similar story with Reg about how I even learned about Works of Intent. And so Laurent Garnier is he's a big fan of Works music, and it was an interview with him, and I like I said, I'll read every interview about my favorite DJ or artist. I'll watch everything. And so just in the interview with Laurent Garnier, like, he mentioned right at the end, they asked him like his producer to look out for right now or something, and he said Works of Intent. I was like, let me check him out. I saw he's another like South Asian living in London, so near London. So I was like, wow, this is perfect, and I'll just reach out to him with music. And it was actually the same track that him and Reg both liked, so it was a similar era. But point being, like you were mentioning sort of off mic to me about just like trying to, you know, reach out to people, it's like you really have to kind of calculate who do I have a real chance with almost, and like what plays to my strength here. And I think that just through like our heritage and stuff, and that like we were both South Asian, it made it a bit easier, you know, just to be like, because again, there's not that many people making melodic techno in my part of the world, or just, I mean, even here, like it's not such a brown thing, you know. So yeah, that really worked out. But Emotional Weaponry and Works of Intent, it's all massive and emotional, and it's just, yeah, it's banging.
Can we backtrack a bit? I'm
Sure,
really confused though.
About Vasily.
So I thought he was Works of Intent, and I've seen like videos where I think he's in Laurent Garnier's, he's got a documentary and he's with him.
Yeah, you've seen that.
I've not watched it, I've been meaning to, but I've seen clips of it.
Yeah.
So I don't understand.
So Vasily is really a third party on all of this. Like Vasily is Vasily.
Like a mouthpiece, a front man for Works of Intent.
He is.
But he's not the person making the music.
No, he's revealing it.
Wow.
Vasily is revealing it.
Is he an artist himself? Is he a DJ or?
Vasily seems like a suit to me. I don't know. Wow. I don't know. I mean, we're still, it's up in the air, and the first Emotional Weaponry release has just dropped. You guys should check that out as well. That's Green Review with K Monday.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying thank you, but I'm proud to be affiliated, honestly.
That track is when I listened to the Emotional Weaponry mix, and I said to you, I've just listened to it on a jog. That track really stood out to me, and I think I said to you, it reminded me of like a track that I heard on a Sasha mix. The Involver series, and by the way, I'm going seeing Sasha tonight.
Hey.
Looking forward to that. But yeah, and actually, I also noticed the other day when it was being promoted by Works of Intent of Vasily on Instagram. Sasha was one of the artists that apparently has been playing it out.
Yes, yeah.
Hopefully,
Makes
he
sense,
might play
right?
it tonight.
Oh.
But that's a really great track. Yeah.
No, yeah, I think I see what you mean. I mean, like I said to you, I still need to dig in more to Sasha. But is it? Because everything Works of Intent does, it does have a UK influence in, like, sometimes it's a bit more garagey. He's big on UK funky, and so there's always something going on that's a little bit like that, even though his music is probably closer to sort of Berlin techno thing most of the time, although he's really, you can't box him in. That's another mentor and someone I really, really look up to.
So Emotional Weaponry,
yes,
Vasily aside,
yes,
is, I mean, I thought it's like some kind of project, but I've realised now it's a label.
It is a label. Fair to say, yeah.
Is the person behind it is Works of Intent.
Works of Intent is their key target.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I really like. It's kind of been promoted through some very clever marketing. It's got this real sense of mystery and intrigue about it. And it's the ball is rolling now. I mean, you saw like it obviously like from Maceo Plex to Laurent and whoever has kind of played the first release. It's definitely not something that's going to be like flying off the shelves, but that would almost not be the point as well, I think. But yeah, I think Vasily is threatening to release some of my music as well. I can't put a date on that, but I will say that it's been supported by names that I never ever thought I'd be associated with, and I have a couple of them actually. A couple of them are coming out throughout the year, and two of those tracks feature on this mix, Emotional Weaponry mix, which I will, I'll put the link in with the blurb for the podcast.
Yeah,
and they're at the end. I mean, are we allowed to talk about them too much? Are we allowed to name them?
I can't name them. I can't name them.
I know which ones they are.
Yeah,
but
you know which ones they are. And in fact, there is, I believe, a slightly damaged track list was discovered. So in that link, you will find all relevant information about that. But what I will say is that Works of Intent pushes me to make music that is not just, I love Dixon, but it's not just Dixon music. And
definitely.
It's not just, and that is something that, again, like you, I feel like I find quite refreshing, because it's like, there's other things going on, there's other sounds. It's like, we can't keep feeding the monster. I feel like, and so yeah, let's see. Maybe we'll end up having events, but the focus is on big room music, because me and him share that in common. That again, a bit like I think it is that ritualistic thing about it. The bigger the temple, like the more spiritual the whole thing is in a way, like in some ways. And I like to make, the thing is, whether I like it or not, a lot of the time I think I want to make a very chill, deep house, maybe introspective track. I don't know why. I just like hard-hitting music, but I do like it to be sad and have an air of melancholy and stuff. And that's where we really connected, you know, something that like really hits you in the face, but like makes you cry. And I think that in a nutshell, that's the ethos. And so going forward, just expect, just really, really heart-wrenching bangers.
So you sent me another track, called Saber.
Yeah, so it's pronounced Saber. Saber, yeah.
What can you tell me about that track?
So that was, I guess the reason why I sent that one to you is because that's the first track I sent to Reg, to Works of Intent. It's again, everything's tying together. Wow, I didn't even mean for this to, but the vocal on that, it's got a vocal, and that is, it's this duo called Distant Relatives, which was Nas and Damian Marley, one of Bob Marley's sons. And so they would do a cool thing where, like, you know, like they would both rap, and like you'd obviously have like Damian Marley's kind of, you know, him doing the bit more reggae thing. And it was a song that me and my best friend, who's boss, we used to listen to a lot. It was a very special thing, and just coming across it, like I just was like, oh, this vocal would be so cool for like a nice breakdown. And just you've got elements of like, I think it samples this, I don't know what language it's in. I think it's Swahili, but the chorus samples a Swahili song, and it's basically just about patience, and this too shall pass. Sabr means patience in Urdu, and I just thought the word looked really cool, you know. I mean, it's a bit like saber too, and just the SABR, and so that was the first track I sent that I got a foot in the door, I guess. But yeah.
Any plans for that to be released at the moment?
No, nobody likes it enough right now. Nobody likes it enough right now, but I think, you know, I've heard like Jimmy Jules and people say this thing as well, is that like before he had a name, he would send like so much music to places, and they would like be like, yeah, it's good, but then after he kind of got popping a bit, you know, he sent the same music again, and they're like, oh no, we like this. So I don't know, I mean, I like it. And Faide actually recently, I think you sent me a video of this one where Faide was playing it in Brighton, and it's the first time I've seen it out, and it looked like it was doing the business. So yeah, let's see, if someone wants it, they can most definitely have it. But yeah.
Well, let's play a snippet of it now, and hopefully, the word will get out.
Yeah, thank you.
So who are some of your favourite producers out there at the moment? Who are the kind of people who are really inspiring you?
Oh, I love this question because I've said it many times, but I'm a real fanboy. I'm a fanboy first and a nerd. And so apart from the obvious picks, which are, sort of Innervision's crown jewels, like Jimmy and Trick, they're amazing, but they're everyone's favorites too. I really like Fango. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
I'm familiar. I've got some of his stuff, yeah.
Yeah, Fango. Imperiu was
amazing.
Yeah, probably the best out, in my opinion. I mean, he's taking a turn right now because I think he's gotten a little obsessed with Ben UFO and stuff, so he's making some really
He's actually got a new track out. I think it came out last week, something to do with land or something. I heard a snippet of it and I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, the thing, I think he's ahead of his way. I feel like he can't even keep up with himself sometimes, because he's done the whole Innervisions, Pampa even, which brings me to probably, at least right now, I would say my all-time favorite producer is DJ Koze, and still, there's something vulnerable, wonky, raw about his music, and I discovered him fairly late, to be fair, but just for me, that's everything. I just bought this Ricardo vinyl after just seeing the clips of Ricardo and just seeing him be like a person, seeing the memes about, it's 10 minutes and the kick hasn't come back, this kind of stuff. But after listening to his album, it's like a repress from 2000, I think. And that's another one that's sick. I mentioned Nicholas Jar. So he has a project called Against All Logic, which is a way for him to release, I suppose, a bit more dance floor friendly music. And that for me has been my favorite electronic music the past thing. So definitely I prefer a producer who's a bit left field, and so like Fango, for example, this Barut, these guys just smash it. And they're always it's difficult in a way because it's almost like the guys whose music I want to recreate the feeling that these guys' music gave me, but a lot of them are not that successful. A lot of them are quite niche and not everybody gets it, but that's what's so special to me as well,
Nice. Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of all those people, Koze, Barrett, and that, I'm very familiar with them. So last question, how and where can listeners follow you up for updates, etc.? Yeah,
so it is only Instagram. It's nice and simple. My Instagram handle is exactly how it'll appear on this episode. Again, just lucky with a weird name, so I didn't have to add any underscores, numbers, nothing. So it's just Channan Hanif on Instagram. I'm getting better at posting on there. So yeah, there'll be stuff throughout the year actually. So far, I'm booked for four tracks coming out this year that are definitely happening for sure, but fingers crossed there's more stuff as the year progresses.
Channan, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I, for one, am very excited about the year ahead for you, and hopefully be able to look back in a year or so and say, you heard it first, folks, on the Electric Communion podcast.
No, thank you so much, Rick. This has been it's lovely being able to nerd out about music and about the scene and just talk it. And I mean, you're also just a lovely human being. So honestly, I hope we get to do this again someday. Maybe when I'm way too famous for everything.
You won't want to talk to me then.
No, I'll come back. I'll fly you out somewhere.
Okay, appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
Thanks again to Channan for taking the time out to make the journey from the Big Smoke to the coast to chat with me. What a great guy. Really enjoyed the chat, and I hope you did too. Don't forget to check out the links that accompany this podcast, referencing some of the key artists and promoters discussed during our chat, as well as other references including the YouTube conversation Channan participated in back in Karachi. For future updates about this podcast, don't forget to follow the Instagram account electric_communion. And if you haven't yet listened to previous episodes, you can do so via the links in the bio, and you can find the episodes on the platform of your choice, including my SoundCloud and YouTube page. You can also check out my Spotify page, which has a selection of work from all the artists, including Channan, who've appeared on the show. As always, I would love to hear about what you think of the show, good or bad. And if you have any suggestions for future guests, please do let me know via my Instagram page. Your support is really appreciated, and until the next episode, keep on dancing. Electric Communion, conversations in